Marine instructor asks civilian contractor a mocking question during range qualification. Her answer rewrites every assumption in the room. The day I watched a decorated Marine sergeant drop a loaded magazine on a firing line because of 3 words a woman said, I learned that some people carry their past so quietly you'd never know it was there until they decide to let you see it. My name's Eric Dalton. I'm 41. I restore old firearms for museums and private collectors, mostly military surplus, things with serial numbers older than my father. I'd been doing contract work for the Corps for about 6 months when this happened, teaching armorer certification courses at Camp Pendleton. I wasn't looking for anything. I'd been divorced 3 years by then, and the breakup had been the kind where nobody cheated and nobody yelled, but you both just ran out of road. She wanted kids and timelines. I wanted to keep fixing things that were already broken. We were kindest to each other the day we signed the papers. The job was good. Quiet. I'd show up, teach Marines how to detail strip an M4 in the dark, then drive back to my apartment in Oceanside and fall asleep to baseball I wasn't watching. It was a Thursday morning in early October. The range was still cold, fog rolling in off the coast and hanging low over the berms. I'd gotten there early to set up the qual course, 50 shooters rotating through in pairs, mostly boots fresh out of SOI who thought they were already gunslingers because they'd qualified once at boot camp. The range office smelled like coffee, gun oil, and the kind of industrial cleaner that makes your eyes water. I was running through the roster when the door opened and she walked in. Her name was on the sheet as V. Ruiz, DoD contractor, logistics audit, som Akner der Optendis. She was maybe 37, 38, dark hair pulled back in a bun that looked like it had been tied by muscle memory, not a mirror. She wore a plain gray quarter zip, cargo pants, and boots that had seen actual ground. No makeup. No jewelry except a black band on her right ring finger. She didn't look around the room like people do when they're trying to orient themselves. She just walked to the desk, set down a hard-shell rifle case, and said, Ruiz, I'm here for the qual. Her voice was even. Not cold, not warm, just factual. I looked at the roster again. You're the logistics auditor? That's right. Nastadindan Santinda. You know this is a live fire range qual, not a facilities inspection. She met my eyes. I know what it is. Okay, I said. You'll be in the second rotation. Pair 17. Atster Jater den Sie. She nodded once and stepped back to the wall, arms crossed, watching the Marines filter in like she was counting exits. The trouble started about 20 minutes later. Staff Sergeant Kyle Brennan was running the line that morning, 10 years in, 2 deployments, the kind of NCO who thought volume was the same thing as leadership. He had a crew cut so fresh you could still see clipper lines, and he walked the firing line like he was patrolling Fallujah. When Ruiz stepped up to her lane with her rifle case, Brennan stopped mid-stride. Hold up, he said, loud enough that half the line turned. Newstein Didindenor. Who let admin personnel on my range? Ruiz didn't react. She just opened the case, pulled out a well-maintained AR-15 variant, and started her function check. Brennan walked over. I asked you a question. She looked up. I'm here to qualify. My paperwork's with the RSO. Peter Ostakendardrinan. Yeah, I saw your paperwork. Says you're a logistics auditor. He said it like the words tasted bad. This isn't a pencil-pushing course, sweetheart. This is a live-fire combat qualification. I'm aware. Are you? He looked at the Marines on either side of her, grinning. You got a call sign, princess? Andi Ensiner der Almanso. It was the kind of question designed to humiliate. Call signs are earned, not given. You don't ask a civilian contractor if they have one unless you're trying to make them feel small in front of people who do. Ruiz locked her bolt to the rear, checked the chamber, and set the rifle down on the bench. Then she turned to face him fully. "Mamba 6, she said. Brennan blinked. His grin flickered. One of the Marines 2 lanes down, a lance corporal who looked about 19, went completely still. Brennan recovered fast. Cute. You make that up on the drive over?" "No," she said. "I got it in Helmand Province, 2011. I was a corpsman attached to 1st Recon. Mamba 6 was my Victor call sign for the platoon I ran with for 7 months." Brennan's jaw tightened. The lance corporal down the line took 1 step forward. "Staff Sergeant." Brennan didn't look at him. "Not now, Carver." "Staff Sergeant," Carver said again, louder this time. "Mamba 6 was real. I seen, nah sir." The entire line went quiet. Brennan finally turned. What?" Carver's face had gone pale. "My dad served with 1st Recon in Helmand. He told me about Mamba 6. She pulled him out of an overturned MRAP after an IED. Carried him 200 meters under fire with a perforated lung and a shattered femur. He said she kept him talking the whole way. Told him if he died, she'd kill him." Ruiz didn't move, didn't smile. "Then sucker so them fur." Didn't acknowledge that anyone had spoken. Brennan's hand, which had been resting on his magazine pouch, slipped. His mag hit the dirt with a soft thud that sounded in that silence like a gavel. Nobody bent to pick it up. I didn't say anything. I just walked over, picked up the magazine, wiped the dust off on my shirt, and handed it back to Brennan without looking at him. "Let's get the line hot," I said. Brennan took the mag, holstered it, and walked back to the tower without another word. Ruiz turned back to her rifle. Her hands were steady. I stayed close to her lane during the shoot. Not because I thought she couldn't handle it. She moved through the course like someone running on autopilot, programmed by repetition. Smooth mag changes, controlled breathing. Natser, Atsem, Ats. Tight groups. She shot a 238 out of 250, which put her in the top 5 scores of the day. When the ceasefire was called, she saved her weapon, packed her case, and walked toward the exit without stopping to check her target. I caught up with her near the gate. "Ruiz, I see. Kinderdandasser." She stopped but didn't turn around. "You didn't have to answer him," I said. She looked back over her shoulder. "Yes, I did." "Why?" "Andi Basender Ben Bondendixuri." Because if I hadn't, someone on that line would have spent the rest of the day thinking I was lying. She paused. "And because he needed to know that the people he dismisses might have been the ones who saved his friends." I didn't have an answer for that. She adjusted the strap on her rifle case. Thanks for not making it worse." I didn't do anything." "Exactly." She nodded once. That's what I'm thanking you for." Then she walked out. I saw her again 2 days later at the base exchange. I was buying coffee filters and pretending I knew what brand I usually bought, and she was standing in the checkout line with a case of protein bars and a replacement admin pouch. I almost didn't say anything, but then she glanced over, recognized me, and gave a small nod. I walked over. "You qualify again, or are you done torturing staff sergeants?" She almost smiled. "Almost. I'm done. I only needed the 1 cert for the contract." What kind of logistics audit requires a rifle qual? Nanikasserdi nakordinin. The kind where you're auditing supply convoys in places where logistics stops being theoretical. Aserdi dekin simnen cube. She set her items on the counter. "I'm only contracting now. I got out in 2015. Corpsman the whole time? 8 years active. 2 more in the reserves." She paid, took her bag. Then I got tired of holding people together who didn't think I should have been there in the first place. We walked out together. The parking lot was hot, shimmering with heat, even though it was October. "Brennan didn't know," I said. "I know. He's not a bad Marine." "I didn't say he was." "Asina." disrimatnal. She stopped by a dusty Tacoma with a "Don't Tread on Me" plate frame that looked ironic on her. But he assumed, and assumptions get people killed. Anitandrin descending. She opened the door, tossed her bag in. You were at the range early that day. You always get there that early? Most days. Why? I shrugged. I like the quiet. Nobody asking me where I've been or where I'm going. She studied me for a second. Divorced? How'd you know? You've got that look. What look? The one where you're not mad about it, just tired. She climbed into the truck. I'm staying at the Navy Lodge for another 2 weeks if you want to grab coffee that isn't from the PX. I make it strong enough to strip carbon. I laughed. You threatening me or inviting me? Both, she said, and then she drove off. I showed up at the Navy Lodge 3 days later with a box of decent coffee beans and no plan beyond that. She answered the door in a Marine Corps marathon shirt and jeans, hair down for the first time since I'd met her. It changed her face, softened it, or maybe just let me see it properly. You brought your own beans, she said. You said yours could strip carbon. I wasn't sure I was ready for that. She let me in. The room was military clean, bed made, no clutter, so damned. A laptop open on the desk next to a stack of manila folders with DoD stamps. She made the coffee. We sat on the small patio outside her room, looking out at the parking lot and the hills beyond. Can I ask you something? I said. You're going to anyway. Why'd you get out? She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, there was a kid, 19. IED took most of his left side. I kept him alive for 40 minutes until the bird got there. Did everything right. Textbook. He lived. She took a sip. 2 years later, I saw his name in an obituary. Suicide. He'd written a note saying he wished I'd let him die on that road. Ader Swansin. Dadadindins. I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't get out because I couldn't handle the job, she continued. I got out because I realized I'd spent 8 years keeping people alive who didn't necessarily want to be, and nobody ever asked me if I wanted to keep carrying that. She looked at me. Well, what about you? You said you restore old guns. That's not an accident. What do you mean? You fix things that are already finished. Things that don't need to work anymore, they just need to be whole again. She tilted her head. That's not random. She was right. I'd never said it out loud, but she was right. I like things that stay fixed, I admitted. I got tired of working on people who broke again the minute I turned around. Your ex? No, she was fine. I was the one who couldn't stop. I set my mug down. She wanted a future. I wanted to keep fixing the past. Those don't line up. Maruise leaned back in her chair. You know what I miss most about being in? What? Outstanding ni and seen in. The part where people just said what they meant. No games. Makor sodidi not. No wondering. Someone tells you to move. You bin dak min daknis somentuv. You move. Someone asks if you're good, you tell them. She looked at me. Civilian life's exhausting. Everyone's always performing. Anstersensentin. You're dimmed. You're not performing right now. No, she said. I'm not. A week later, I was back at the range, running another qual course when Ruiz showed up unannounced. She wasn't on the roster. She just walked onto the observation deck with 2 coffees and handed me one. I thought you were done torturing Marines, I said. I am. I'm here to watch you teach. She sat on the bench. Carver, the Lance Corporal, reached out to me. His dad wanted to say thank you. For Hellman. Dati der ascends. That's good. It is. She watched the line for a while. He also said you stood up for me after I left that day. Told Brennan he was out of line. I didn't say much. You said enough. She looked at me. Eric, can I ask you something now? Go ahead. I stir de stateneknen datsin. Are you trying not to ask me out, or are you just really slow? I stundi and entimbris. I almost choked on my coffee. What? Means. Because if you're slow, I can wait. But if you're trying not to, I'd like to know now, so I stop wondering. I set the coffee down. I wasn't sure you'd want me to. Why wouldn't I? Because you're, I gestured vaguely. You. I'm what? Notsteden. Someone who carried a Marine 200 meters under fire. Someone who has a call sign. I restore old rifles and live alone in Oceanside. She leaned forward. Eric, I like that you restore old rifles. I like that you showed up with coffee beans because you were worried about mine. I like that you didn't make a thing out of what happened with Brennan. You just handed him his magazine and kept going. She paused. And for the record, I'm not made of Kevlar. I'm just tired of people acting like I am. The range went quiet in my head. If I asked you to dinner, I said, would you say yes? I'd say I was wondering what took you so long. 2 days later, we were sitting outside a diner in Carlsbad when a man in a pressed shirt and a Rolex walked up to the table. Victoria. Ruiz looked up slowly. Her face didn't change, but her shoulders did. Marcus. Didn't expect to see you back in California. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Thought you were still doing the contractor thing overseas. I was. Now I'm here. Marcus looked at me. And you are? Eric, I said. He waited for more. I didn't give it. Well, Marcus said, turning back to Ruiz. I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. You look settled. It was a compliment that landed like an insult. Ruiz set down her fork. Marcus, this is the part where you leave. I just wanted to check in. We were engaged for 2 years, Vic. I'm allowed to care. You're allowed, she said evenly, but I didn't ask you to. He looked at me again. You know she doesn't do commitment, right? She'll tell you she does, but when it counts, she'll pick the job. Marcus, Ruiz said, her voice dropping half an octave. Well, walk away. I'm just being honest. No, I said, setting my coffee down. You're being a guy who can't handle that she left and you didn't. Marcus's jaw tightened. You don't know anything about... I know she said leave, I interrupted, and that should have been enough for you. He stood there for another 5 seconds, then turned.